What is happening, folks? How are we all, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the Nerdic Pro podcast? I hope that everybody is well. Welcome to episode and week 78 of Nerdic Pro Weekly. 78 weeks worth of Nerdic Pro Weekly. Jeez Louise. Welcome to the Nerdic Pro podcast. Welcome to episode and week 78 of Nerdic Pro Weekly. My name is, as per usual, Bobby Effin Salastar, and I will be your host for tonight's podcast. Tonight I do have several very big announcements that I would like to make this evening. In regards to some up-and-coming interviews that will be taking place here on the Nerdic Pro podcast. So, first of all, this coming Wednesday, I will be welcoming on, at 7:30 this coming Wednesday, I will be welcoming on the leader of Project Mayhem, the manager of Project Mayhem, in New British Promotions, Mr. Lee, as well as this upcoming Wednesday at 11 p.m. UK time, I'll be welcoming on none other than a man who is taking the British wrestling deathmatch scene by storm, none other than Danny Darko. He will be appearing here on the Nerdic Pro podcast at 11 p.m. this coming Wednesday. This Friday, I will be at the Anglers Club in Leeds for Classic UK Pro Wrestling. CUKPW presents a night of professional wrestling. 30 tickets are still available for that show, folks. So make sure you don't miss out on that one. Next, I will leave the big announcement for last. So next Wednesday, I will be joined by the new British promotions heavyweight champion, Mr. Tommy Rocker, live at 7:30 p.m. next Wednesday, and next Monday at 7:30 p.m. UK time, I will be joined by British wrestling legends, the legendary British tag team, a world-renowned tag team to come out of the UK. None other than Bulk and Big Dave Waters of the UK Pitbulls. The first British tag team to hold 10 tag team titles at the same time, simultaneously. That is a huge accomplishment for the UK Pitbulls. So yeah, running back through the announcements tonight, I would like to point out that I'm currently in talks with another man to appear here on the Nerdic Pro podcast. However, a date and time has not been settled yet. So I will announce this man as soon as a date and time gets settled. This man is very well known on the British wrestling scene. It's been in the business since 1990. So that's 33 years he's been in the business now. I will announce him as soon as we can get a time and a date settled. So, this Wednesday, 7:30 p.m, I will be joined by Mr. Lee of Project Mayhem. Later on Wednesday evening at 11 p.m, I will be joined by Danny Darko. This Friday, I will be at the Anglers Club in Leeds for Classic UK Pro Wrestling. CUKPW presents a night of professional wrestling. Get your tickets now. Next Monday, I will be joined by British wrestling legends of Bulk and Big Dave of the UK Pitbulls. Next Wednesday, I will be being joined by the new British promotions heavyweight champion of Tommy Rocker. And then Bank Holiday Monday, May 29th, I will be at the Hare Hills Labour Club in Leeds for new British promotions. Tickets are on sale now for that show. Yeah, don't miss out. Anyways. Moving on with the actual podcast here tonight, ladies and gents. I have recently been doing a bit of fantasy booking in terms of who is Roman Reigns going to lose the undisputed WWE Universal Championship to, as well as watching a bit of Tales of the Territories as well, which is a very good Vice documentary series about the territory system from retro American professional wrestling, so the likes of Stampede Wrestling, the AWA, World Class Championship Wrestling, Capital Wrestling Corporation, that was then later on known as the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, that was then known as the World Wrestling Federation, that's now known as the World Wrestling Entertainment, the WWE, as well as, what other territories were there? You had Mid-South Championship Wrestling. What was the one where Jim Cornette was involved in? Was that Stampede? No, it wasn't Stampede, was it? No, but either way, so the territories were so back in like the 60s, 70s, 80s, and throughout most of the 90s, you had various territory systems in the USA because television was still, well, the popularity of television, shall we say, was still somewhat in its infancy, and there wasn't any sort of nationally known wrestling promotion out in the United States of America. So practically each company was had their own sort of area, so state, like part of a state, etc. That they would host shows in. I've been watching a bit of that recently, and I am literally just off finishing I've literally only got about another 10 minutes left on the first episode of Tales of the Territories, which I think is a bloody good. If this is anything to go by for the rest of the Tales of the Territories series, I think that this will definitely be worth having Stuart and Richie on, the Nerdic Pro co-hosts, to help review and talk about. Do you know what I mean? So the main focus of tonight, ladies and gents, is of me giving thoughts on what had taken place last week on in the world of wrestling, as well as talk a bit about, well, you guys, the regular viewers here on the Nerdic Pro podcast, will know that we do like to fantasy book here on the Nerdic Pro podcast. That is try to fantasy book how I personally feel Roman Reigns will lose the undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship. But yeah, I will get on to that now, actually, right? So, Roman Reigns had beaten Brock Lesnar last year to unify the WWE and the Universal Heavyweight Championship into the WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship, as well as who was it he beat? Won it The Fiend at SummerSlam? No, Survivor Series in 2020? That he beat The Fiend for the Universal title. So we are pretty much approaching the 3-year reign of Roman Reigns in the Universal title. But to begin with, I was all for the Acknowledge Me Tribal Chief Bloodline storyline, right? But now the fact on how we're 3 years on from it, and he's not, and he's still the Universal Champion nearly 3 years on. I think that had he have lost the title and maybe have had a bit of like a hot potato thing where he wouldn't have been champion as long, where he'd have probably lost it quite a while ago and then probably regained it at some point, whatever. Personally, I'm not a fan of the fact that how it's taken 3 years for someone to dethrone Roman Reigns. I mean, everyone thought it was going to be Cody Rhodes who was going to dethrone Roman Reigns at Mania this year. All right, so hello, Kelly. How is we? How are you? You all right? You all right, Kelly? Yeah. Cheers for calling me sausage smuggler. What's different? Yeah, I mean, everyone thought it was going to be Cody who was going to dethrone Roman at Mania this year, right? Especially after the main event of night one of WrestleMania, right? When you had Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn dethrone the Usos after their like 400 and some odd day reign of the undisputed tag titles, right? Yeah, I mean, especially after night one, right? Everyone thought that Cody was going to dethrone Roman, and I was one of them who thought that Cody was walking in to Mania as the challenger, and then walking out the brand new undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion, right? The fact on how he didn't, straight away, I was like, well, if Cody's not the one to dethrone him, who's next? Who is next, right? Because I originally thought that they were going to keep building up the Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes storyline to somewhere like SummerSlam, right? Where they'll have, Roman defend it at probably somewhere like Backlash, Money in the Bank, maybe at the O2, right? And then keep the whole feud between Roman and Cody going till SummerSlam, and then have Cody win SummerSlam, right? The biggest party of the summer, right? However, right, the following night after Mania, right, we were due to see what was meant to be a tag team match between Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar. Yet, just as the MC was doing their pre-match announcements, Cody Rhodes then gets given an F5 from Brock Lesnar. What the hell? Do you know what I mean? I wasn't expecting that, to be fair, right? Obviously, Brock, after SummerSlam last year, can no longer compete for the titles under Roman's current reign, right? So I thought, well, this is going to give Cody all the more excuse. Well, since Brock can't compete for the titles whilst we're in the Tribal Chief era of the undisputed Universal titles, then I thought that, this will give the WWE creative all the more reason to push Cody to become the next undisputed Universal Champion. However, we saw a Brock Lesnar heel turn, and since then we've seen practically nothing between Roman and Cody for if we're actually going to see Roman Cody 2 for the Universal undisputed title. And especially considering that now they've brought in the new version of the World Heavyweight Championship, which is still kind of getting to me, really. The fact that how it's going to be a title that's going to be exclusive to Monday Night Raw, yet they've got SmackDown wrestlers competing that they had SmackDown wrestlers competing in the tournament as well. That just, wow. Do you know what I mean, the fact that how Cody last Monday lost out in a triple threat match between him, Finn Balor, and who was the other guy in the match who ended up winning it? Who won their triple threat match? It was Balor, Cody, and The Miz won it, right? And yeah, then Seth. We saw Seth versus, I can't even remember who Seth beat in the other triple threat match. But yeah, anyways, Seth ended up winning the second triple threat match. He ended up beating Finn Balor, who was the eventual winner of the Cody Rhodes, Miz, and Finn Balor triple threat match. To go on to face the SmackDown winners, AJ Styles won everything, and we're now going to see Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles at Night of Champions in Jeddah of Saudi Arabia. I am all for this match. I really am, right? Cody Rhodes and Bloodline aside, right? I am actually hyped for this match, right? As, you know, I do think that AJ and Seth will tear the house down in Jeddah, in Saudi Arabia, right? I wouldn't have put either of these guys in the finals, right? Had I been put on the spot there and then to fantasy book who would be the first ever World Heavyweight Champion. However, now coming to think of it, I do think that this will be a very, very good match because, let's face it, in WWE, we've not seen Seth Rollins, AJ Styles feud. Do you know what I mean? Well, not a memorable one anyways. But I think that now, coming to look at things, we will get to see one hell of a fantastic match because you look at the AJ Styles history in his career, right? Obviously, former multi-time TNA X Division champion, former TNA World Heavyweight Champion, former IWGP Heavyweight Champion in Japan, the New Japan Pro Wrestling. Obviously, former member of the Bullet Club, right? You know, Seth Rollins, again, as what was his indie name? Tyler Black or something, wasn't it? Again, he's a former Ring of Honor. He's a former Ring of Honor world champion, right? AJ's a former Ring of Honor champion, isn't he? He has definitely wrestled for Ring of Honor, isn't he, AJ? But yeah, I think that I don't know if I'd have preferred Bullet Club, AJ Styles, TNA, like X Division, AJ Styles versus Ring of Honor, Tyler Black. Or if I'd have preferred AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins, Seth freaking Rollins. However, you know, I think either way, had we have seen it outside of WWE or inside WWE on a WWE pay-per-view or Final Battle, let's say, or at Dominion or at Wrestle Kingdom or wherever, or at Supercard of Honor, I think that they'd have torn the house down either way. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, one thing I would like to see is what someone like Uncle Dave Meltzer's opinion is going into this match, or someone like Sean Ross Sapp from Fightful. Just to, see like their opinions going into the match in a few weeks. Yeah, I mean, who do I think will win? Cody Rhodes. Why do I keep saying Cody Rhodes? Seth Rollins or AJ Styles? At this current point in time, I do not know. They are both former WWE World Champions. They've both been World Champions outside of WWE. Seth was former Ring of Honor World Champion. AJ's former TNA and former IWGP champion. I wouldn't predict that match yet, because I would like to see what's in store for the match build-up between now and then. Just to, see what kind of promos we're going to get between Seth and AJ between now and then. Because, I think that promos are a big part of actually helping hype up a match, especially in one like this. A match that, is going to have sort of a dream match feel to it, if you want to call it one of them, right? And yeah, so I personally can't put the finger on who I want to win, as quite frankly, I wouldn't mind seeing an AJ Styles World Heavyweight Champion in WWE, because I think that the two reigns he had before with the WWE title, one of his reigns he had for over a year, right, and the other one he had for quite a while as well. I think that he had two fantastic reigns of it. I wouldn't exactly say that, apart from I would argue his Raw Tag Team title reign with Omos in 2020. I know, was it 2020, 2021, or whatever it was? 2021, that was it. I would say that would be his only sort of bad, if you want to call it that, title run in WWE. Other than that, the Intercontinental Championship reign he had after winning the IC tournament in 2020, I think that was a sort of decent run. The United States title runs he's had, the world title runs he's had in WWE, I think that, they've all been what you'd expect. Do you know what I mean? And nothing less. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so I do want to point out, I have seen some sad news about a man who would be considered as a WWE legend of the Viper, Randy Orton. Now, Randy Orton has been out for the best part of a year, right, for an injury. And I saw it was either yesterday or today at some point that Randy's doctors have said that they would recommend him not to set foot back inside of a ring, which I think is awful. Because, Randy Orton, when was the last time he was out with an injury for anywhere near this period of time? Right? Never. Right? In the 21 years he's been in WWE now, right? He's never been out for anywhere near this period of time, right? He's a 14-time world champion, right? He was the youngest ever world heavyweight champion in WWE history with the big gold plate, right? He's a Grand Slam champion, right? And, he's defeated so many legends. Triple H, The Undertaker, Mick Foley, Shawn Michaels, right? Ric Flair, right? So many legends he's stepped in the ring with, and he's beaten them all, right? Some of which on more than one occasion. And, he's so many... he's the favourite wrestler of so many kids, so many adults. He's someone who you look at and it's like, how does he not have more respect from the crowd? Do you know what I mean? He's always someone that I've thought, he's a fantastic wrestler. He's a fantastic performer. I think he can work the mic. I think that he can definitely work a lot of moves, right? However, I don't really talk about Randy Orton on the podcast at all, right? I don't think I've ever had a fantasy booking segment on the Nerdic Pro talking about Randy. However, I do respect the bloke in so many different ways. He was one of my favourites growing up. Do you know what I mean? In the early 2010s, right? Seeing his feud with John Cena, right? About 10, 11 years ago, right? I think that was fantastic, right? The feud he had with John Cena, right? Put on some fantastic matches with him. So in terms of Randy Orton, right, the fact that how it's now been made public that he's been told that the doctors would recommend him to retire from pro wrestling, and to hang his boots up. I think that in itself is, a huge news story. Do you know what I mean? I think that credit where credit's due, 21 years in WWE, he would have been wrestling for quite a few years before actually getting signed to WWE, right? I think he came up through OVW, right? Because weren't he in the same class as John Cena, Batista, Brock Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin, Charlie Haas? Didn't he come up with all them guys from OVW? But yeah, anyways, his dad was obviously the legend that is the Hall of Famer of Cowboy Bob Orton, so wrestling's in his blood, right? So he would have had there would have been some sort of Randy Orton incarnation to the world of pro wrestling prior to him signing with WWE 21 years ago. So I think that Randy, I hope he can recover within the near future, because, I think that his time spent with Matt Riddle, his recent work in RK Bro with Matt Riddle. Originally, I didn't I've said it quite a few times here on the podcast, and on a few episodes of Nerdic Pro Weekly, quite a few, right? That originally I didn't rate the RK Bro tag team at all, but as time went on, I actually liked RK Bro more. I've been following Matt Riddle for a few years, right? Before his time on main roster WWE. Before his time on NXT, seeing him in companies like Progress, Evolve, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, PWG, I saw Matt Riddle then. Do you know what I mean? I don't follow UFC. I know that he had a couple of fights in UFC, so I can't comment on the Matt Riddle of UFC, I can only comment on the Matt Riddle of Evolve, PWG, Progress, NXT, WWE. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you know, I've never really been someone who would say I'm going to this show. I'm watching this show specifically because Matt Riddle's on it. You know, to me, Matt Riddle's never really been that sort of wrestler where, you know, I would specifically watch a show because a Matt Riddle match has been announced, right? However, in terms of someone like Randy Orton, I tuned in to the Arcade Bro segments, the promos, the matches, etc., because of Randy Orton, right? Not because of Matt Riddle, as such, because, you know, as I said, never really, to begin with, never really a fan, but as time went on, I think that Randy Orton helped solidify and cement Matt Riddle into WWE today. Do you know what I mean? And had a very good set of matches against Seth Rollins that he wouldn't have had Orton have never have got injured. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, I think that Orton has helped build Matt Riddle, right, as well as other superstars. And I would like to see Orton back in the near future. When that is, because, you know, he's been told that he's got to hang his boots up. Do you know what I mean? Which, to anyone in the wrestling business, to anyone who's in this, like, who's an athlete in sports, right? When they get told to hang the boots up, right? Whenever they get told to hang the boots up, you know, that's the worst thing in the world to them. Do you know what I mean? And I can only imagine what Orton's going through, considering that this is practically all he's known for over 20 years of his life. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, the four pillars in AEW, All Elite Wrestling. On the 28th of May, I believe it is, Sunday the 28th of May, for AEW Double or Nothing, we are going to be seeing the Four Pillars match for the four pillars of All Elite Wrestling AEW square off in the ring for the AEW World title. That is Maxwell, the reigning champion, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF, versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry, versus Darby Allin, versus Sammy Guevara. Four young talents, you know, they're all in their early to mid-20s. I think they're all really good wrestlers, you know, in their own right. I think it's going to be a very, very good fatal four-way match. However, you've got to admit, MJF's walking out still champion, isn't he? You know, you can't not have MJF walk into Double or Nothing with the title and then walk out with no title, considering that, you know, we're literally only a matter of months away from All In, right? As well as the bidding war of 2024, right? I would be so fucking hyped to see what would happen, right, if MJF got to the New Year's Day next year as the AEW World Champion, and just seeing what would happen if we were going to see the bidding war of 2024 take place. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, I think that MJF, credit where credit's due, he's by far the greatest heel in the business, right? Currently, right? You know, there have been other fantastic heels in the time. You know, you just have to look at the likes of Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Vince McMahon, right? Abdullah the Butcher, he was a fantastic heel during the day. Bruiser Brody, right, is another one. Legendary heel managers, Classy Freddie Blassie, Captain Lou Albano, Bobby the Brain Heenan. You know, there have been so many great heel personas in the world of pro wrestling. Again, here are other fantastic heels. Now I'm putting myself on the spot. Bloody hell. Trying to think. Giant Haystacks, right? He was another great heel from back in like the World of Sport days. You know, again, what other heels have there been? Was Gorilla Monsoon at one point a heel? But yeah, anyways, going off topic, you know, I think that MJF is, promo-wise, the best heel in the business today. Not saying that he's of all time, right? Because he's not. Because there have been other fantastic heels that have been, you know, great and are several steps ahead of MJF in terms of their heel work, right? But I think that today, in terms of promos and just being a heel all round, I think that MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, the All Elite Wrestling, the All Elite Wrestling Heavyweight World Champion of Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF, you know, by far the best promo heel in the business today. And I think that MJF's walking out of Double or Nothing, still the AEW World Champion. Yeah, so I would like to see what would happen at All In, because, you know, quite a few people are saying Drew Galloway is turning up at All In. Bollocks, right? Bollocks, right? No, Drew's not turning up, right? Drew's not turning up at All In. Drew Galloway, better known to WWE fans as Drew McIntyre. But, you know, it would be good to hear him come out to, how does it go? Fuck. Or like however it goes. Like, so his TNA, his Defiant, or WCW as it was when he was wrestling for him. Did he come out to that for ICW as well? Yeah, it would be good to hear that as a theme song again. But, you know, I just don't think there's any room for Drew in AEW, because you'd want someone like Drew McIntyre as a main event superstar, right? Or as an upper mid, or as one of them guys who are a borderline upper mid carder, borderline main eventer, right? And it's like the upper mid card main event section in AEW is huge on the men's and the women's, like in the men's and the women's division. You know, the upper mid card and the main event sections are huge. They're huge. And it's like you can't like dictate to me that Drew McIntyre would fit in when you've got all these main event guys in AEW like MJF, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, Chris Jericho, Adam Cole, Kenny Omega, John Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Eddie Kingston, Bryan Danielson. Who else have you got in AEW? Christ. Who else? Wouldn't go as far as saying Orange Cassidy or Pockets. You know, but just those guys, you know, could you really dictate to someone saying that you need an additional superstar in a main event spot when you've already got guys like Claudio Castagnoli, MJF, Kenny Omega, Eddie Kingston, John Moxley, Bryan Danielson, Who else? Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, you know, all those guys alone, you know, could make one hell of a main event roster. Well, have made one hell of a main event roster, right? However, all right, as well as Death Triangle, right? You've got Pac, Penta El Zero Penta El Oscuro Zero Miedo Jr., right? Ray Phoenix, the House of Black of Brody King, Malachi Black, and Buddy Matthews. You know, they're all fantastic mid-carders, right? And it's like, you know, the Best Friends, you know, as well as many others, you know, there's nowhere for Drew to fit in terms of the AEW mid-card and the AEW main event, because with someone like Drew McIntyre, right, with a character like his, and with someone with a stature like him, right, if he was wrestling for you on a full-time basis, right, which you would have Drew Galloway wrestling for you on a full-time basis, you would want him as an upper mid-carder going on as a main event superstar, right? Not on the undercard, wrestling the likes of Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr., do you know what I mean? And Kip Sabian, do you know what I mean? Who I think is, when it comes to someone like Kip Sabian, I think that he's been very underappreciated in AEW. Not because, you know, he's a fellow Brit, because, you know, having the privilege of seeing Kip Sabian a couple of times live, right, and in person, right, I think that he's one fantastic wrestler, and given the opportunity, right, could quite easily be a big name out in the States. Do you know what I mean? But, you know, the problem is with AEW is that the locker room is so jam-packed full of people. You can't seem to be able. What word am I looking for? You can tell that I failed GCSE English. Yeah, you can't tell, like, you can't describe your fantasy booking of Drew Galloway in AEW with the roster that they have now. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, I wouldn't put Drew on the undercard. Again, with the likes of Griff Garrison, Brian Pillman Jr., QT Marshall, who else is on the undercard? Kip Sabian, you know, Fuego del Sol. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, yeah, anyways, I think that MJF, he's got to walk out as AEW World Champion. You can't not. Like, as much as what this is going to be a fantastic match on the 28th of May at Double or Nothing with the 4 pillars for the AEW World title, I'm not denying that in the slightest. I am hyped like a mofo for this match. I really am, right? MJF versus Darby Allin versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Sammy Guevara, right? All these guys have got huge futures ahead of them. And I do think that if not already, this is going to solidify MJF, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, Sammy Guevara, and Darby Allin as being some top quality sons of bitches in the world of professional wrestling. Do you know what I mean? I cannot stress enough on how much I'm actually hyped for this match, right? Unless I've already made it sound like I am, right? This match, Double or Nothing, Fatal 4-Way, as I've literally just said, if they've already not solidified their legacies in AEW and professional wrestling, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, and Maxwell Jacob Friedman will solidify their legacies in All Elite Wrestling and professional wrestling from May 29th after Double or Nothing. If this match goes any less than 20 minutes, I am going to be pissed, right? If this match isn't in and around the 20-25 minute mark, right, I am going to be pissed, right? Because quite frankly, you've got 4 of the top young talent in the world, 4 of the best young talent in the world, right, competing in the same match. Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, just take Sammy Guevara, fantastic technical wrestler, fantastic guy who can work the ropes. You know, Darby Allin, you know, I'm a massive fan of Darby Allin, right? Seeing the way, like how he sells the moves he takes, right? I've got a lot of respect for someone like Darby Allin, right? Considering he's the smallest guy going into this match, the risks he takes in some of the stuff he does, right? For such a small guy, right? Credit to him, right? Jungle Boy Jack Perry, again, he's come so close on several occasions, right? To becoming the AEW World Champion. He had a chance against Kenny Omega, came up short. I think he's already had a chance. Has he already had a chance against MJF? But either way, like, he's come short for the AEW World Title before, which, you know, is a shame. MJF, again, I personally think he's the greatest heel who you can work the mic in the business today. Just in the business today, not of all time, but today. Do you know what I mean? Because again, other legendary heels, whether they be managers, wrestlers, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Classy Freddie Blassie, Captain Lou Albano, do you know what I mean? You know, other legendary heels, do you know what I mean? Vince McMahon, do you know what I mean? But, yeah, Abdullah the Butcher, you know, Bruiser Brody, again, other fantastic heels, do you know what I mean? So, Scotty, how are we, mate? You alright? Yeah, doing good. Yeah, doing good, thanks, mate. Yeah, you alright, mate? Yeah. But yeah, honestly, I'm buzzing for this match, right? I just don't think that... Obviously, MJF's walking out victorious, right? That's a no-brainer, right? But I don't think the next challenge is going to be Drew. I really don't. Yes, he's not being advertised for Money in the Bank, right? But that doesn't mean that he isn't going to be there. Do you know what I mean? At Money in the Bank, right? I'm all for I'm all for Drew not being in WWE no more, right? Well, I'm not more than I'm not all for Drew being in WWE more than what I am all for Drew being in WWE. Does that not make me sound like a twat? Whatever, but yeah. Drew, there's no space for him in AEW. You know, especially with someone like Drew, he's got to be in that upper mid card main event section. You look at the upper mid card and the main event talent on AEW TV. You know, you literally cannot fit anyone anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, unless you're having 10-man tags for all your mid card and main event matches. Do you know what I mean? Or 10-man battle royals or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I think that is going to draw tonight's podcast to an end. I'm going to watch the rest of the final 10 minutes of the first episode of Vice's Tales of the Territories just after I sign off this podcast. And I will do a review podcast on that. Will Ospreay will be on a Drew when they're in the UK. I think Will's already been announced for thingy, any. But Drew, I personally, I don't know about anyone else or yourself, Scotty. Like, I just can't see Drew being in AEW. I really can't. With someone like Drew, he's like, you can't not have Drew McIntyre in your upper mid card main event section on your shows. Do you know what I mean? And you look at the AEW mid card and the AEW main event system, like the AEW mid card and main event picture, right? It's full pretty much. Do you know what I mean? If you add someone like Drew McIntyre or add a full-time aerial assassin of Will Ospreay, then it's gonna be like literally everyone's head and shoulders on each other. Do you know what I mean? Drew versus Ospreay. That I would like to see, to be fair, right? If, Drew comes in as someone who's not on a full-time basis with AEW, right? So like they did with Eric Redbeard or Eric Rowan. Who else have they only had in a couple of times? Looking back to the early days, they had Tommy Dreamer, Bully Ray, if he comes in for like a handful of matches and not get into any massive storyline for any title, then that I can get into. Do you know what I mean? But if you book him as someone like with the likes of, Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega, MJF, Jungle Boy, blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? I bet you any money that the match will happen at Wembley. As I say, I would definitely be up for seeing Drew versus Will, right? However, I think that other matches that could happen, like again, Drew McIntyre, Drew Galloway even, versus Will Ospreay, will be head and shoulders above any other match that will be on that card. However, if there's a chance of it, do you reckon there could be Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay? Will Ospreay versus Bryan Danielson. Do you know what I mean? There's like Ospreay Omega 2 after Wrestle Kingdom. Do you know what I mean? By the way, congrats on working the lead show. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. Yeah. Which one? Which lead show? Do you mean the one this Friday or the one on Bank Holiday? Because I'm there this Friday for CUKPW, and I'm back there Bank Holiday Monday for New British Promotions. This Friday at the Young Guns Club in Leeds for Classic UK Pro Wrestling, and then Monday the 29th for New British Promotions at the Hare Hills Labour Club. This Friday. Yeah, cheers, mate. Yeah, it'll be an interesting night, shall we say? As Scotty's just pointed out, yes, as I said earlier on in this podcast, this Friday I shall be refereeing Classic UK Pro Wrestling, CUKPW Presents Night of Professional Wrestling. I will be refereeing the whole show, ladies and gentlemen, right? So if you want to see Bobby effing Salstar, I can't even say my own name properly, how embarrassing. If you want to see Bobby effing Salstar referee, right? If you want to see Bobby effing Salstar referee an entire night of professional wrestling, get your asses one of the final 30 tickets to this Friday's CUKPW Presenting Night of Pro Wrestling show at the Anglers Club in Leeds. It will be an easy night, lol. No comment, right? Yeah, no comment. That's all I want to say. Come to a WAW show, pal. I've been looking into WAW, but they always seem to coincide with me already having plans or me working. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I am looking into a couple of training sessions to improve my refereeing, shall we say, that they've got coming up. I've been speaking to Mike Mann, recently, who I will actually be travelling up to Leeds with this Friday. Yeah, so I've been speaking to Mike Mann about probably doing a couple of training sessions to like some refereeing stuff, as you know, like I've got a few bookings to ref, yeah. So WAW, I've only ever done one WAW show. Do you know what I mean? Sorry to hear that. What is that? The fact that how I'm refereeing the whole show, or is that the fact that how I'm going to be driving up to Leeds with Mike? Well, obviously, like it won't be me driving because I wouldn't trust myself in the car. I don't actually know who's driving, to be fair. Like how sad. Yeah. What was I saying? I've lost where I am now. But yeah, WAW. I've only ever done one WAW show before. There is a fan. And that was Fightmare. Would it have been Fightmare 3 at Carrow Road in 2019, where you had the main non-Rumble match between Roy and Ricky Knight Jr., between Roy Knight and RKJ. You had Billy Gunn, Grant Holt. Yeah. Pretty decent night, actually. Pretty decent afternoon. I only actually found out on the day that I'd be going. Literally, Dad said the day of, oh yeah, we're going Norwich with a couple of mates to Carrow Road for a fight there, and I was then like, okay. Didn't have a clue who was wrestling. Didn't even realise that WW had even booked Carrow Road, right? And then all of a sudden we turned up to Carrow Road, and yeah, so turned up to Carrow Road, and I thought, what are we doing here? Are we going to be sneaking into the car park or whatever? Yeah, turns out WW had booked Carrow Road for a show. I didn't have a clue the show was even happening, right? And then Mick Foley was there, Billy Gunn was there, Bob Holly was there, Cody Hall was there, Rene Dupree was there, Grant Holt was wrestling out of all people. Yeah, so, but yeah, I like the show. Oh, really? Oh, nice one. I know a couple of people that work that show. Matt Walters, Mark Hesselin, he'd have worked that, no doubt. Trying to think, the Pitbulls, they were wrestling. They're coming on the podcast next week. I've known the Pitbulls a while. Yeah, so yeah, Jim starred, Jim Cambridge. I know he had something to do with the show. Yeah, so I started with WAW in 2001. Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, nice. Yeah. So presuming you'd be friendly with Kirk, Hot Stuff, Steve Quintanen, Jimmy Ocean, Pitbulls, etc. Presuming that would have been that sort of era of WAW. Sweet Soraya. Well, obviously, her and Ricky founded the company back in, 94, wasn't it? Yeah, so... Yeah, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the Nerdic Pro podcast, my name has, as per usual, been Bobby Effin Salastar, and thank you very much for joining me here tonight for Nerdic Pro Weekly, episode and week 78. Yeah, I was the person that got Kirk to do the... Oh, were you the one that told Kirk to run in, like, that told Kirk that his music was playing, and he then ran out and then the ran through the curtains, and then ended up being halfway through a match or something, wasn't it? Yeah, I remember Kirk saying that. Yeah. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the announcements I had earlier on in this podcast were quite a few. This coming Wednesday at 7:30 p.m., the manager of Project Mayhem, Mr. Lee, will be appearing live here on the Nerdic Pro podcast at 7:30 p.m. Then at 11 p.m. This Wednesday, I'll be interviewing a man who is taking the British wrestling deathmatch scene by storm, Danny Darko. This Friday, don't forget, I will be in Leeds for Classic UK Pro Wrestling and the Anglers Club in Leeds. The CUKPW presents a night of professional wrestling. I will be refereeing that show in its entirety. The first time I'll be refereeing an entire show. Don't miss out on that one. If you want to see Bobby Salastar referee some wrestling, then get your asses to the Anglers Club in Leeds this Friday. Or on Bank Holiday Monday, May 29th, get your asses to the Hare Hills Labour Club in Leeds for new British promotions. Early bird tickets are on sale now. So next Monday, I will be being joined by the legendary British tag team and the largest tag team in all of Europe, none other than Bulk and Big Dave of the UK Pitbulls, the current CXW tag team champions, and the first tag team in British wrestling history to hold 10 tag team titles simultaneously. That's just huge, isn't it? 10 tag titles at the same time. So that's next Monday at 7:30 p.m. Next Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. I will be being joined by the reigning new British Promotions heavyweight champion of Tommy Rocker. There is also one other person who I would have liked to have announced for tonight, to be appearing at some point in the coming weeks. However, I don't announce appearing stars until dates have been agreed, etc. So unfortunately, this other British wrestling legend, who's been in the business since 1990, who I'd announced the third British wrestling legend who I said I'd announce tonight, unfortunately, I will not be announcing just yet. However, once the date and time has been agreed, that man will get announced. So then, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name has, as per usual, been Bobby effing Salastar, and I have been your host for tonight's podcast. I've been your former two-time Nerdic Pro podcast general manager, and I shall be seeing you all this Wednesday when I interview a man who I have a bit of beef with in New British Promotions, of Mr. Lee. See you all later, guys. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your evening to watch live, and thank you very much for those of you that are taking the time out of your day to watch after the live stream. So yeah, my name is, as per usual, been Bobby effing Salastar, and I'll see you all later. Thank you very much. Goodbye.